December 31st, 1944. The skies over northern Germany are filled with smoke, fire, and courage. In the cockpit of a B-17 Flying Fortress named the Little Skipper, Second Lieutenant Glenn Rojon grips the control column. Beside him sits his co-pilot, William Leake, scanning the horizon through frost-covered glass. Their mission: to destroy the oil refineries of Hamburg, one of Nazi Germany's most vital industrial targets. But what they don't know yet is that this flight will become one of the most unbelievable survival stories of the entire war. It's the last day of 1944. Europe has been burning for more than 5 years. And in the gray, frozen dawn over the North Sea, the Allied war machine is roaring toward its next target, Hamburg, the industrial heart of Nazi Germany's oil production. The war is at a turning point. Just 2 weeks earlier, Hitler had launched his desperate counterattack, the Battle of the Bulge, pushing Allied forces back through the Ardennes in one last gamble to change the course of history. But while soldiers fight in the forests of Belgium, another battle is raging in the skies, the brutal air war to choke the German war machine. The 8th Air Force is the hammer of that campaign. And today, more than 1,200 B-17 Flying Fortresses thunder toward northern Germany, each one carrying 10 men and the weight of nations. Inside one of those bombers, the Little Skipper, Second Lieutenant Glenn Rojon, 24 years old, from Pennsylvania, tightens his gloved hands around the control yoke. Beside him sits William Leake, his co-pilot, steady, calm, focused. They've flown together long enough to know that calm won't last. Below them, the sea turns into land, dark, scarred, broken. The coast of Germany. Rojon checks his altimeter. Navigator, confirm position. A voice crackles back through static. Approaching target zone. 10 minutes out. And that's when the sky starts to come alive. From far below, the first black puffs of flak bloom in the air, lazy at first, then dozens, then hundreds. Within seconds, the formation is flying through a wall of fire. The sky flashes white with bursts of exploding shells, each one timed to detonate right at bomber altitude, 25,000 feet. The crew knows that every black cloud could mean death. The bombardier, Sergeant James Shirley, grips his instruments, watching shrapnel slice past the plexiglass nose. The air vibrates with the concussive shock of explosions. It feels less like flying and more like surviving inside a thunderstorm of steel. Over the intercom, someone shouts, "B-17 going down, 9 o'clock high." Rojon glances left just in time to see a fortress in flames roll onto its back and disappear into the clouds. No parachutes, no survivors. The tension is suffocating. But Rojon doesn't flinch. He can't. He's the one holding the lives of 9 other men. Through the smoke and chaos, he spots the signal flare, a column of smoke rising from the docks below. The target. Open bomb doors, he commands. Hydraulics hiss. The bomb bay yaws open, exposing the belly of the fortress to the wind. The rest of the squadron follows suit. A line of metal giants gliding in perfect, terrifying synchrony through the storm of flak. Below them lies Hamburg, a city already scarred by years of bombing. Once called the gateway to the world, now it's an open wound of brick and ash. Refineries, shipyards, steel mills, the beating industrial heart of Hitler's war. And that's why they're here. The Germans know it too. The anti-aircraft gunners on the ground, veterans of 1,000 raids, unleash hell. Their 88mm guns boom like war drums, their shells detonating with mechanical precision amid the formation. Then it happens. The lead B-17, fools rush in, takes a direct hit. The explosion rips the plane open midair, sending its right wings spiraling into another bomber, cramps tramps. In a split second, 2 30-ton aircraft collide, twisting together in a fiery embrace. From the Little Skipper, Rojon watches in stunned silence as both planes plummet, trailing fire, breaking apart as they fall. He braces for the shock of seeing no parachutes. But then, miraculously, white silk blooms against the black sky. 3-4. I see 6 chutes, he yells. Navigator, write it in the log. For a brief moment, humanity pierces the chaos. 6 men will live another day, but the sky offers no mercy. The flak intensifies again, a rhythm of explosions shaking every rivet in the plane. Shrapnel rips through the fuselage, tearing open the side panels like paper. And still, the fortresses fly on, straight, steady, unwavering. Then the command. Bombs away. 500-pounders tumble through the clouds, falling silently toward the oil tanks below. The bomb bay doors close. The men hold their breath. Seconds later, a blinding flash rises from the earth. Right on target, reports Russo from the ventral turret, voice trembling. Rojan exhales, a brief moment of relief amid the inferno. Then he grabs the controls again. Formation 180. Heading home. The worst, he knows, is still to come. As the bombers turn back toward the sea, a new terror appears on the horizon. 50 German fighters, Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs, closing fast. The first to strike is a jet, the Me-262, the fastest aircraft in the world. It screams past the formation, guns blazing, too quick to even track. Then come the Bf-109s and FW-190s, diving head-on through the formation like angry wasps. The B-17, faithful forever, flying just off Rojan's wing, takes hit after hit. Its pilot, Lieutenant Leo Ross, radios his last words. Faithful forever is falling apart. He guides his crippled bomber down to 5,000 feet, steady enough for his men to bail out. Every single one survives. But up above, the fight rages on. When all hope seems lost, silver shapes appear in the sunlight. P-51 Mustangs. Jesus, thank God, someone whispers. American fighters dive into the chaos, scattering the Luftwaffe. For a moment, there's hope again. The clock in the cockpit reads 11:07 a.m. The sea below stretches endlessly, cold and metallic, a mirror of the sky. To the men aboard, the little skipper, it feels like flying over eternity. Wind howls through the gaps in the fuselage, and the rhythmic drone of 4 Wright Cyclone engines fills the cabin like a heartbeat. Steady, powerful, almost human. For a brief moment, there's peace. After the hell of Hamburg, the fire, the smoke, the shattering sky, the vast emptiness of the North Sea feels like sanctuary. But every man in that plane knows the truth. Peace and war never lasts. Second Lieutenant Glenn Rojan grips the controls, his gloves stiff with sweat. Beside him, William Leake scans the horizon, his eyes squinting through a haze of exhaust. Below them, the crew works in silence, each man trapped in his own world of fear and focus. Sergeant Joe Russo, the ball turret gunner, peers through his gun sight. From his cramped glass sphere beneath the plane, he's surrounded by sky. A lonely world where life and death hang on seconds. Clear skies ahead, he reports. His voice crackles through the intercom, calm but strained. It's the kind of calm that only war teaches. A calm built from knowing that chaos could erupt at any second. The formation tightens. Dozens of B-17s glide together in an elegant but fragile ballet of steel. Each plane carries 10 men, each man a heartbeat in a flying fortress of aluminum and fuel. Below them lies nothing but the black water of the North Sea, a grave that has already swallowed hundreds of bombers before them. The temperature outside is 20 degrees below zero. If they go down here, they have minutes, maybe less, before the cold takes them. Rojan knows this. Every pilot knows this. That's why they stay in formation. Why they fly wingtip to wingtip despite the turbulence. Because the only safety in this sky is each other. Leake breaks the silence. Think we'll make it back to England, Skipper? Rojan doesn't answer right away. He looks ahead, toward the horizon where the gray of the sea meets the gray of the sky. A perfect empty void. If we can stay tight and the crowd stay grounded, he finally says, we might just drink New Year's beer tonight. But his tone betrays him. He doesn't believe it, not fully, and neither does Leake. Then, from the radio, static. A burst of frantic chatter from another squadron. Words half drowned in noise. Bandits breaking from Bremen, approaching fast. Rojan stiffens. He knows what that means. The Luftwaffe isn't done yet. He flips the intercom. All stations, eyes up. Fighters inbound. 11 o'clock. Every gunner on the little skipper swings his turret into position. The air inside the fortress thickens. A silence before the storm. And then a flash. From the horizon, silver glints of light streak toward them. Messerschmitt Bf 109s and FW 190s, the predators of the Reich, rising to meet the slow, heavy bombers. They cut through the clouds with surgical precision, black crosses painted boldly on their wings, as if defying the heavens themselves. Tracer fire splits the air. The serenity of the sea vanishes, replaced by chaos once again. Bandits closing. 11 and 1 o'clock. Tailgunner, keep your eyes sharp. The intercom erupts with shouting, metallic voices colliding with the sound of roaring engines and machine gun bursts. From below, Russo watches the first fighter dive, its guns lighting up like angry stars. Here they come. The sky over the North Sea transforms into a burning dance of death. Tracer rounds slice the air. Explosions bloom like brief suns, and the once perfect formation begins to fracture. A B-17 ahead takes a hit. Engine 3 bursts into flame. The bomber tilts, begins a slow, spiraling descent toward the sea. 10 men vanish in seconds. Rojan watches, jaw clenched. He's seen it before, but never gets used to it. In that split second, he knows what every airman knows. How fragile life is. How thin the skin of a fortress really feels when fire finds it. Still, they press on. Through the smoke, through the turbulence, through the unending roar of war. Because turning back isn't an option. Not here. Not now. There's still 20 minutes from the English coast. 20 minutes between life and oblivion. Rojan looks down at his instrument panel, then back at the horizon. Every second feels stolen. Every breath a small act of defiance. Above the endless gray sea, two truths battle in his mind. The certainty of death, and the stubborn, almost irrational belief that somehow they'll make it home. That's when Leek glances out the window and sees something that freezes his blood. Skipper, 9 o'clock high. Rojan turns and sees the silhouette of another fortress. Wobbling, smoking, trying to stay in formation. 9 lives, its engine sputtering, its nose dipping dangerously. He doesn't know it yet, but that plane, that dying bird struggling to hold its place in the sky, will soon become part of his own. The sky over the North Sea has chosen its next story. In the cockpit of the little skipper, Glenn Rojan tightens his grip on the controls. Every vibration runs through his bones. The engines groan under strain, their propellers slicing through wind thick with debris and tracer rounds. To the left, 9 lives, the squadron leader, lurches forward, fighting to stay airborne. Its fuselage shudders, a trail of oil streaming from one crippled engine. But still it flies. Still it leads. Inside the little skipper, co-pilot Bill Leek glances through the cockpit glass. "Skipper," he says, voice tight. McNabb's losing altitude. Rojan looks up, and what he sees doesn't make sense. The 9 lives isn't descending anymore. It's rising. Not in control, just rising, as if something invisible has pulled its nose upward. The formation scatters to avoid it, but Rojan's fortress is directly behind. Too close. Too slow. The radio erupts in static and screaming voices. "McNabb, McNabb, you're climbing. For God's sake, pull down." No answer. Inside 9 lives, both pilots, McNabb and Vaughn, are already gone, slumped forward in their seats, killed by a burst through the cockpit. Their lifeless hands still clutch the yokes, pulling the nose upward in a dead man's climb. Rojan reacts instantly. "Power back! Power back!" he yells, shoving the throttles to idle. But 30 tons of flying steel doesn't stop on command. The altimeter spins, 15,000 feet, 14,900, and closing. The horizon lurches. The air around them roars like a living thing. "Brace!" Leek doesn't think. He throws his arms over his head. Impact. It's not a crash. It's a collision of worlds. A deafening metallic scream tears through the sky as 9 Lives slams into the little skipper from below. The sound is bone deep. Steel grinding, rivets exploding, glass shattering like brittle ice. The cockpit jolts so violently that Rojan's head slams against the overhead frame. Leek's knees drive into his back. For a second, everything goes black. Then white. Then nothing but noise. Alarms howl. Smoke fills the cabin. The world spins. Pilot to crew. Rojan shouts, his voice raw through the intercom. What the hell just happened? No one answers. Static. Then faintly, upper turret here. We're hit, but sweet Jesus, skipper, you won't believe this. Rojan twists in his seat and looks back. Through the jagged hole in the fuselage, he sees something that makes no sense. They're riding another fortress. The belly of 9 Lives is jammed into the top of the little skipper. The 2 planes are fused, locked together like mating insects, their wings barely holding, their engines still screaming against each other. Inside 9 Lives, chaos reigns. Sergeant Edward Woodall Jr., trapped in the lower turret, is showered with shards of aluminum. The impact has severed electrical lines and hydraulic systems. He smells gasoline, smoke, and blood. Painfully, he cranks the turret by hand, inch by inch, until he can crawl out into what's left of the fuselage. There's no one left alive around him. No sound except the deep, groaning roar of 2 bombers now joined as one. Through a hole in the floor, he sees the top of another aircraft, Rojan's, and through the shattered plexiglass dome below, he can see the trapped face of Joe Russo, the little skipper's ventral gunner. Russo's turret has been driven down into the belly of 9 Lives, crushing him between layers of twisted metal. He can't move. He can barely breathe. But through the intercom, they can still hear him praying. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. His voice is calm, almost peaceful, each word steady against the chaos around him. Lee takes off his headset. He can't bear to listen. Later he'll say it was the hardest thing he ever did. Felt like I was intruding on a man's last conversation with God. Outside, the sky spins. The 2 fortresses tumble downward in a slow, unstoppable fall. Rojan and Leek wrestle the controls with everything they have. Their boots braced against the instrument panel, their arms shaking from the strain. They're flying a machine that should not exist. A double bomber. 8 engines howling, fighting gravity and fire. Come on, Bill. Rojan shouts. Keep her level. But the controls feel like concrete. The yokes barely move. They're not flying. They're gliding on fate. Below them, on the North Sea coast of Germany, farmers and soldiers look up in disbelief. They've seen hundreds of bombers, but never this. A German officer grabs his binoculars. Zwei eins, he mutters. 2 planes, but 1 shadow. A beast of metal falling from the heavens. No one fires. No one can. Even the enemy is frozen by the sight. Inside the cockpit, the smell of fuel fills the air. Flames lick the left wing. The heat is unbearable. And still, Rojan refuses to let go. Bill, we got to get her over land, he gasps. If we hit the sea, we're done. Leek nods, sweat pouring down his face. Then let's give her everything we've got. They push together, man against machine, and somehow, impossibly, the twin bombers respond. Slowly, like a wounded bird, they begin to turn toward the German coast. 2 dead planes, 1 living will. That's where scene 4 ends, with the impossible flying. 2 bombers locked in death, yet defying gravity for just a little longer. The sky has stopped roaring. Only the engines remain, a metallic prayer echoing over the North Sea. And for the men inside, the nightmare has only just begun. Scene 5, a prayer in the flames. Inside the lower plane, 9 Lives, Sergeant Edward Woodall Jr. struggles free from his turret, cut and burned, surrounded by mangled metal. He looks toward the other gunner, Joe Russo, trapped in his turret beneath the little skipper. There's no way out. Through the intercom, the crew of the little skipper hears Russo's voice. Soft but steady. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. The men go silent. Even Leek removes his headset to give Russo privacy in his final prayer. Later, he would say, I couldn't help him, and I felt like I was invading his right to die alone. The impossible has happened. Rojon's little skipper has collided with another fortress, 10 horsepower, slicing into it like a blade of steel. Their fuselages are fused together, the spinning propellers of the lower bomber clawing into Rojon's belly turret, showering both planes with sparks and flame. The sky is chaos, the roar of wind, the screech of metal, the screams of men trapped in their stations. Inside the cockpit, Rojon and Leek fight to understand the unthinkable. The plane shudders violently, but somehow it's still flying. Jesus Christ, we're riding him. Leek yells over the intercom, but the static drowns his words in white noise. Rojon's hands are welded to the controls. He feels the vibration through the metal, the lower plane's engines still turning, keeping both aircraft afloat in a deadly embrace. They're dropping fast, losing altitude but not spinning. It's not a fall, it's a slow-motion crash from the edge of heaven. In the lower bomber, chaos has turned to horror. Flames roar through the fuselage. Crewmen scramble through smoke, choking, blinded. Their pilot, Lieutenant William G. McNabb, realizes what's happening. Another fortress is sitting on top of them. He can barely move the yoke. The tail section is gone. The radio operator is gone. The oxygen lines are burning. There's no saving it. Bail out. Bail out. McNabb shouts. But only one man makes it out before the fire consumes the rest. Back above, Rojon's co-pilot, William Leek, is yelling through the intercom. Fire in number 4. We're hit bad. The engine sputters, belches smoke, but Rojon keeps his course steady. Feather it, he commands, and Leek kills the engine before it explodes. The plane groans, sinking lower, 20,000 feet. 15,000. They're trapped in a burning coffin of metal, and every instinct screams jump. But Rojon knows the truth. If they bail, the lower plane's wreckage will rip free and tear both aircraft apart midair. He makes the only choice a leader can. He stays. Hold her steady, he says, his voice calm, almost impossibly calm. Leek turns to him. You're not serious. Rojon nods. We're going to try to land it. For a moment, time stops. The fire, the noise, the death below, none of it matters. 2 men in the cockpit of a dying plane decide that they will not die screaming. They will die flying. The controls are heavy, almost unresponsive. The wind howls through shattered glass. The altimeter spins, 10,000 feet, 8,000 feet. The navigator, pale and trembling, calls out. Ground coming up fast. Through the smoke below, they can see the fields of northern Germany, flat farmland stretching to the horizon. Rojon's eyes dart across the landscape, looking for a strip, a clearing, a chance. Gear down, he orders. But the landing gear is gone. The hydraulic lines are severed. They'll have to belly it in. He tilts the yoke forward. The monstrous, burning double plane begins to glide, a twisted silhouette against the winter sun. Leek braces himself, one hand gripping the dash, the other on the throttles. Rojon's jaw is set, eyes locked ahead. Hang on, boys, he mutters. We're going home. The impact comes like thunder. A tearing, grinding explosion of earth, steel, and fire. Both planes slam into the frozen field, tearing a trench through the snow and mud. Wings snap like paper. Fuel ignites in a wall of flame that devours the wreckage. Silence follows. Then movement. From the smoking crater, figures emerge. Rojon, Leek, and a handful of their crew, dazed, burned but alive. They collapse in the snow, gasping for air, the world spinning around them. For a few seconds, there's no war. No mission. Just the sound of the wind, the smell of smoke, and a miracle that they somehow survived. When German soldiers arrive minutes later, they stare in disbelief at the tangled wreckage. 2 bombers fuse together, one atop the other, a sight so surreal that even they can't comprehend it. And yet, out of that inferno, 2 Americans stand with their hands raised, alive, battered but unbroken. The fight to survive wasn't about luck. It was about willpower, discipline, and a refusal to surrender to the inevitable. In that moment, Rojan and Leek didn't just save themselves. They proved something greater, that even in the mechanical apocalypse of war, the human spirit can still defy the laws of death itself. On the ground below, German soldiers on the island of Wangerooge watch in stunned disbelief. Two bombers, welded together, descending like a comet. A Wehrmacht captain lowers his binoculars. "Cease fire," he orders quietly. "Those poor souls have no hope." Inside the cockpit, Rojan looks to his co-pilot. "Bill, you have to jump." "No, Glenn. I'm staying." Leek refuses to leave. He knows that without both their strength, the planes will spiral, and neither will survive. Together, they fight the controls to the end. The ground rushes up. "Keep it straight. Sweet Jesus, keep it." Then, impact. 9 lives disintegrates on contact. The little skipper bounces off the wreckage, rips through a wooden building, and skids to a stop in silence. Smoke. Dust. Then, a cough. A groan. Both men are alive. Across the snow-covered field, 2 titans of steel lie broken and intertwined, their wings folded into each other like the bones of fallen giants. The air still crackles with heat. Metal ticks as it cools. Somewhere, deep within the wreckage, an engine gives one last, dying groan and stops. From a distance, it looks like no one could have survived. 2 planes fuse together in midair, crashing from 20,000 feet. There should have been nothing left. And yet, out of the smoke, movement. A figure stumbles forward, face blackened, uniform torn, hands raised instinctively against the wind. It's Rojan. Behind him, Leek emerges, limping but alive. Then the navigator, his face ghost white. 3 men, then 4, then 5, each one a piece of the miracle that shouldn't exist. They collapse in the snow, gasping, lungs burning from smoke, eyes watering from the cold. For a moment, no one speaks. They just breathe, because breathing right now is enough. When German soldiers arrive minutes later, they don't fire. They just stare. Even the enemy can't believe what they're seeing. One of them mutters something in disbelief. "Zwei Flugzeuge 1, 2 airplanes." 1. Rojan can't understand the words, but he doesn't need to. The look on the soldier's face says it all. This isn't just survival. It's impossible. The men are taken into custody, given water, blankets, silence. Even the guards treat them not as enemies, but as witnesses of something unexplainable. Later, when Allied forces liberated the area, they would find the wreckage still there. The 2 bombers perfectly fused, as if welded by the hand of fate itself. Photographs were taken. Engineers studied them, trying to understand how 2 massive aircraft could lock together, fall for miles, and still somehow land in a way that let men walk away alive. There was no answer. No math, no physics, no logic could explain it. Only one word fit. Miracle. For Rojan and his crew, the miracle wasn't just surviving the crash. It was what came after. Months later, in a POW camp, he would sit awake at night, hearing the echo of the engines that refused to die. He'd think about McNabb and the men in the lower plane. Their courage, their screams, their sacrifice. He knew that without them, without their engines still turning even as they burned, his own plane would never have made it down alive. In a way, the dead had carried the living to safety. That truth would haunt him and humble him for the rest of his life. Years after the war, when reporters asked Rojan to tell the story, he always downplayed it. He never called himself a hero. He just said, "We were lucky. That's all." But those who were there, those who saw the wreckage, those who felt the ground shake when 2 bombers became one, knew it wasn't luck. It was a moment when the laws of physics bent, and humanity's will to live burned brighter than the flames that tried to consume it. The miracle of the double fortress became one of the most extraordinary tales of World War II, a story that captured the fragile line between death and deliverance, between destruction and destiny. And to this day, pilots still whisper about it, about the night 2 planes fell from the sky and refused to die.